Apple, the company that's loved by so many, isn't really doing much innovation right now, especially when it comes to the iPhone. So let's take a deep dive to see how did we get to this point, where did they go wrong. But most of all, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button below. We just hit 500, so thanks to everybody who's subscribing, who's sharing my content. So let's dive into it. So picture this, it's 2014 and Apple has just unrevealed the iPhone 6, and this time it felt a little bit different because it felt like that was the first time we got to see Tim Cook being Tim Cook, because with the previous models it almost felt like he was still filling in Steve Jobs' dream. But Tim Cook decided to take a leap of faith and produce this new design iPhone 6, and on top of that he went on even gave us a Plus model, which was kind of funny because when we look at Steve Jobs' dream or Steve Jobs' comments in the past, he didn't really like big phones because he called them bulky, he called them uncomfortable, and he said that Apple would never make that because it's just simply not easy to hold in your hands. But it felt like Tim Cook said screw all that and then produced the iPhone 6 Plus, gave us options. For the first time we got options when it comes to iPhone, and to be honest, not everybody will afford it because the people who love Steve Jobs, they were like, hey, why are you doing this? We don't need big phones, that's for those Android people. However, other people liked it, and truthfully, I was one of them. The second I got my hands on it, all my friends started making fun of me. It's like, why would you get that? How are you gonna use that screen? But the second I let them use my phone and they held it in their hands, something sort of clicked in their eyes. They fell in love with it, even though they didn't straight out tell me that they loved it. It looked like they felt like they have something different, something better, something bigger. With this phone being so loved, that's when we started seeing news coverage covering how much people would line up in front of Apple stores for even a whole day trying to get their hands on that device. So people would camp out Apple stores waiting for them to open so they can get their hands on it. This was a point where tech reviewers like myself, everything we heard was Apple is so innovative, everything is so perfect, shout outs to Apple. But that has recently changed because with the iPhone 16 being released, almost me scrolling through my TikTok, it's all bad news.
Will launch with iOS 18.
Don't buy the iPhone 16.
I found a big issue with the iPhone 16 Pro Max.
I will not be buying an iPhone 16. You want to know why?
Which iPhone should you get? Should you even get the 16? Nope, get a used 15 or something else.
Don't buy the new iPhone 16.
Don't buy the new iPhone next week.
Apple made a huge mistake on the iPhone 16 by suggesting that consumers...
Everybody's screaming how the iPhone 16 sucks and so much more, but does it really? Yeah, but before we get that far, let's track back to the iPhone 6 because that was Apple's golden geese. They sold over 100 million units with it, which was Apple's most sold cell phone. So right after the release, Apple did get more users because for the first time, it felt like they had something for everybody. And jumping over to the iPhone 7, this was the first time that portrait photography was introduced in the phone. And I remember people couldn't stop talking about it. With me being one of the first people who got it, everybody simply just wanted to use my phone for taking portrait photos. And you could see even people who had Galaxy at the time, they felt like they were missing something on their devices. And right when Apple released the iPhone 8 line, they also dropped the iPhone 10, which I remember watching the keynote. I was like, I need to get one. But they only released it in the smaller model, the 4.7 screen. But with me falling in love with the bigger screen, I was like, I gotta wait, and Apple didn't even wait. Just a few months later, they gave us the iPhone XS and XS Max. And that Max, I almost was one of the people who waited me outside of the Apple store trying to get my hands on it. And I fell in love with it. it felt different. It truly felt like an upgrade for the first time. From this, with the iPhone 11, they finally gave us the first triple camera design that we currently have. And going back to the 12, we got the box shape that replicated the iPhone 4 design that everybody loved so much. So if you track back to all this model, it was super easy to differentiate between each model. Every single year, it truly did feel like Apple is actually truly innovating. But then everything just went downhill from that moment, because with the release of the iPhone 13, it felt like it should be called the iPhone 12s or something like that, because it was literally like the iPhone 12 wrapped in a different color. Now, don't get me wrong, there were camera improvements, newer processors, and internal improvements, but with us slapping cases on all the phones, it was hard for even an Apple fanboy like myself to differentiate between the 12 and the 13 models. And even jumping to the 14, yes, on the Pro models, we did get Dynamic Island, which was nice, but looking at the back, everything felt the same. Now jumping to the 15, yes, we got titanium, but still, looking at the back, and without factoring it in, the new action button, everything still felt the same. Jumping on the 16, again, other than the capture button, oh forgive me, the camera control button, still felt the same. So where did the innovation go? Because everybody right now is screaming like, don't waste your money, don't waste your money. The iPhone 16 is not worth it. Because it truly does feel like Apple is truly not innovating like they used to. It's so sad that even some of the content creators who are trying to hype up the iPhone 16, who are telling us that it's truly a great device, which it is, going down the comments, everybody saying, hey, how much did you get paid by Apple to be able to say this, because this device sucks? Which had me thinking, like, what is a good phone? What does it need to have in order to be considered a great device? Because yeah, innovation is a big factor when it comes to getting a new device every single year. But the phones, it has to be able to provide communication between you and your loved ones. Browse, stream, like go through different apps, launch them fast, game, have a really good camera system that allows you to capture different moments and then revisit them later on. And it's always a big plus if these phones have really, really good battery life. And in addition to that, simply make our life easier, which when you do think about it, it is wrapped in these phones we carry every single day. Whether it's the iPhone 16 that just came out, whether it's the iPhone 13, whether it's the iPhone 14 or other model previously, they are getting better and better every single day, but we truly have everything that we actually want in a smartphone. Because if we're talking about innovation, if we look at other phone manufacturers, especially Samsung, since that's what people love comparing Apple to, they are in the same boat. Because if you look from the Galaxy S21 to the 22 to the 23 to the 24, they look exactly the same. Now, I know Android fanboys are gonna come at me like, hey, we have flips, we have folds, but to me, with those phones, it's something that's super cool, right? So it's innovation. It's something that's awesome to see. It almost feels like it's an expensive toy, because truly, I believe that it's something that you're gonna use maybe once out of the entire day. So on the cool meter, yes, it's really awesome to be able to do that. Even with Huawei, who just released a phone that folds 3 times, it's really awesome. But in your daily basic, how often are you gonna use it? So when it comes to Apple, I do believe they do provide us with the features or design that we are truly going to use or truly going to need. And all these other companies, they produce cool things. Some of their devices are really awesome to look at. It's one of those things that I'm looking at, I'm like, yeah, it's cool. But then when you truly think about it, even Samsung and all these other phone manufacturers, they're struggling to give us another selling point to these phones other than efforts. Because truly, even the market cap for these foldables, it hasn't changed almost, or it changed slightly ever since it was released. They've been on the market for 3, 4, 5 years, and they still can't win a lot of user to it because, like I said, the only selling point for these phones is efforts. Now, when we look at Apple's, even their new camera control, it does feel like it's a feature that we're gonna use, because how often are you with your friends and like, hey, can you snap a picture of this? How often would it be to just grab your phone and push a button and it's there? Yeah, now don't get me wrong, you can already do this with the action button or by simply tapping on your phone, but having the ability to be able to control your entire camera system simply by swiping up and down, to me it sounds like it's a feature that's going to be more popular than ever. But the simple truth is the fact that we have already maxed out everything we truly need from a smartphone hardware-wise. Because if a phone can do all the things I listed earlier and do it right and fast, what else do we need a smartphone to do? I think we're getting to the end of the smartphone era, whether we want to believe it or not. Now, people are saying what's going to replace it might be the smart glasses or something else, which is what Apple was trying to sell us with that bulky Vision Pro headset that costs $3,500, which is ridiculous. But I think if they can minimize that into just like glasses that you simply wear and it's able to do everything you can do on the smartphone, that might be something different that easily we're looking for. Now, you might ask me like, hey, if you're saying that phones are so great, why is everybody giving it negative review online? I think truly when we think about it, it's actually our fault. Like as the viewer, because we live in a society to where we're so bounded to negativity. If we see a negative headline, it's more likely for us to click on it than a positive one. So all these content creators, they see that if they put out a video that's titled Apple Sucks, it's going to do better than putting out a video that says Apple is so great. So this bad reviewer content that's being put out, because that's the content that as people who review it are obsessed with watching. Because when we truly think about it, all these devices, whether it's the iPhone line, whether it's the Galaxy, they're really good devices. It comes down to your preferences. It comes down to your preferences. What do you want to see in your devices? What do you want your devices to do? Because truly they simply do everything the same. Because if the iPhone was so bad and everybody's saying how much it sucks, then how come every single year they have 4, 5 models in the best selling smartphone of the year, including some of their models from last year? Because if it wasn't up to us who look at content and get obsessed with the negativity, I think the reviews out there would actually be good. Because when you look at everything that all these smartphones can offer, it get me thinking, does the iPhone really actually suck?